Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Riza Azzahra. I'm from Office Administration Education Program, Faculty of Ekonomi, State University of Jakarta. Today, I would like to present my research about the effect of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation on entrepreneurial interest of the student of Economy, State University of Jakarta. Background of problem. The lack of student interest entrepreneurial to be an entrepreneur for college graduate is very unfortunate. The phenomenon of low interest in entrepreneurship in Indonesia has become a serious concern. This is because the interest in entrepreneurship in Indonesia is still low. Based on data from Kementerian Koperasi dan UKM, the ratio of entrepreneurship in Indonesia is 3.47% of the total population of Indonesia, currently still very low. Starting from high school to college, they are targeted to provide motivation and knowledge about the importance of entrepreneurship. This aims to increase the interest in entrepreneurship for every graduate. Students are directed to various campus programs in order to foster entrepreneurial activity within the student environment, such as entrepreneurship course, entrepreneurial practice, entrepreneurial student program, etc. Entrepreneurship programs that will be a source of inspiration for entrepreneurship for every college student. The low interest in entrepreneurship for students can be shown from the fact that most graduates prefer to become employees and only a few want to do entrepreneurship. That is, the orientation of students after graduation is only to find work, not to be an entrepreneur. This not fully reflect the aspiration of students after graduation. At least it gives a hint that the interest in becoming entrepreneur among students is still low. In figure 1, pre-research data show that 56.7% of the 30 students of the Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta prefer to become civil servant. In figure 2, pre-research data show that 53.3% of the 30 students of the Faculty of Economics have the intention to become entrepreneur. The results show that the highest result was the lack of entrepreneurship education with a percentage of 46.7%, then the factor of lack of entrepreneurial motivation with a percentage of 36.7%, then the third order is the fear of taking risks with a percentage of 13.3%. The last factor that gets the smallest percentage is uncertain income with a percentage of 3.3%. Formulation of problem. Is there an effect of entrepreneurship education on entrepreneurial interest of the student of economics at University of Jakarta? Is there an effect of entrepreneurial motivation on entrepreneurial interest of the student of economics at University of Jakarta? Is there an effect of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation on entrepreneurial interest of the student of economics at University of Jakarta? Purpose of research. The purpose of this study in general is to obtain empirical data on the variables that affect the interest in entrepreneurship. The aims of this research are specifically, first, knowing and analyzing the effect of entrepreneurship education on entrepreneurial interest of the student of Economics State University of Jakarta. Second, knowing and analyzing the effect of entrepreneurial motivation on entrepreneurial interest of the student of Economy State University of Jakarta. Third, knowing and analyzing the effect of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation on entrepreneurial interest of the student of Economics State University of Jakarta. The novelty of research. First, Ramadhani and Sutirman with the research about the influence of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation on entrepreneurial interest in class 11, student of office administration skills competence at SMK Negeri 1 Godean. The difference between previous research and this research is, first, the research subject in the previous research is vocational high school student, while in this research, the subject is college student. The next difference is the version of the SPSS statistic program used. In previous studies, using the SPSS statistic 22 program, while in this study, using the SPSS statistic program version 26. Second, Septianingsi, Hardianawati, and Aisyah with the research about analysis of the influence of entrepreneurship education, innovation, and entrepreneurial motivation on interest in entrepreneurship in IBM Asmi Jakarta students. The difference between previous research and this research is innovation as the dependent variable is not used in this study. And in the previous study, the data analysis technique used SEM analysis using Smart PLS version 3, while in this study using the SPSS statistic program version 26 as a data processing application using multiple linear regression data analysis. Susanti with the research about the influence of entrepreneurship education, entrepreneurship motivation, and family environment on student entrepreneurial interest in academic kesejahteraan sosial Ibu Kartini. The difference between previous research and this research is family environment as the dependent variable is not used in the study. And the next difference is the version of the SPSS statistic program in previous studies using the SPSS statistic 20 program, while in this study using the SPSS statistic program version 26. Theoretical background about entrepreneurship education. Gerba in Andiana and Putri, entrepreneurship education is a conscious effort carried out with the intention of increasing knowledge about entrepreneurship. Linan, Ceresia, and Bernal, entrepreneurship education is a means to develop the knowledge and skills needed by a person to become an entrepreneur. According to Tum in Wahyono, Siswandari, and Santosa, entrepreneurship education is a process of providing entrepreneurial knowledge and skills to students with the aim that students can take advantage of business opportunities. Entrepreneurship education can be divided into three indicators. First, cultivate a desire for entrepreneurship, increase knowledge and insight in the field of entrepreneurship, and third, be sensitive to business opportunities. Theoretical background about entrepreneurial motivation. According to Firdaus and Hasana, entrepreneurial motivation is an impulse in a person to fulfill his needs and desire to run a business. According to Oblivia and Indriani, entrepreneurial motivation is a driving force in oneself to take advantage of opportunities around in creating a job, dare to take risks, be profit-oriented, and innovative. According to Liang and Heo, entrepreneurial motivation is self-motivation to start a business that can inspire and at the same time generate a desire for entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurial motivation can be divided into four indicators: profit, freedom, personal dream, and independence. Theoretical background about entrepreneurial interests. According to Kusumastuti, interest in entrepreneurship is a person's interest, attention, focus, and liking for entrepreneurship. According to Subandono, interest in entrepreneurship is the tendency to open a business, to manage, take risks, regulate, and develop an established business. According to Septiani and Prasuti, interest in entrepreneurship is a sense of interest in entrepreneurial activities that encourage the creation of a business that is beneficial for oneself and the surrounding environment. Entrepreneurial interest indicators: a strong will to achieve the goals and necessities of life, strong belief in one's own strength, honesty and responsibility, physical and mental endurance, perseverance in work and endeavor, creative and constructive thinking, oriented to the future and dare to take risks. Theoretical framework. First, the effect of entrepreneurship education on interest in entrepreneurship. According to Aditama, it is necessary to have individual entrepreneurship education and knowledge about entrepreneurship that can affect interest in entrepreneurship. According to Mugiatun and Kafif, entrepreneurship education is an important contributor in growing interest in entrepreneurship. The influence of entrepreneurial motivation on interest in entrepreneurship. According to Purwati, Sihombing, and Lita, if a person has a high motivation to become a successful entrepreneur, interest will arise, which will then be followed by maximum effort. According to Givari and Irwansha, entrepreneurial motivation is a condition that arises in a person that can affect a person's interest in taking action or achieving goals in the field of entrepreneurship. The influence of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation on interest in entrepreneurship. According to Nurikasari, Bakar, and Haryani, the importance of entrepreneurship education, creativity, and entrepreneurial motivation is one of the efforts to increase interest in entrepreneurship. Sektianingsih, Hardianawati, and Aisyah state that entrepreneurship education, entrepreneurship motivation, and innovation greatly affects student interest in entrepreneurship. Hypothesis formulation. H1, there is a positive and significant effect between entrepreneurship education and interest in entrepreneurship for students of the Faculty of Economics at University of Jakarta. H2, there is a positive and significant effect between entrepreneurial motivation and entrepreneurial interest in students of the Faculty of Economics at University of Jakarta. H3, there is a positive and significant effect between entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation, together with entrepreneurial interest in students of the Faculty of Economics at University of Jakarta. This is a research constellation with the description X1 is independent variable, X2 is independent variable, Y is dependent variable, and the arrow is direction of influence. Time, place, and research method. The time of the research is carried out starting from January 2022 to June 2022. Faculty of Economics, State University of Jakarta is research place. Quantitative method is a research method. The measuring instrument in this research is a questionnaire. Population and sample. The population used in this research were students of the Faculty of Economics at the University of Jakarta, class of 2018-2020. The affordable population in this research were students of the Office Administration Education Study Program, class of 2018-2020, with a total population of 257 students. Sampling in this research area use simple random sampling method using the Slovin formula as a sample determinant. Sample calculation. Based on the result of calculation using the Slovin formula, the number of samples produced is 157. Validity tests show that there are 20 valid items for interest in entrepreneurship variable. Reliability tests show that 20 valid items were declared reliable with a Cronbach alpha value of 0.967. Validity tests show that there are 13 valid items for entrepreneurship education variable. Reliability tests show that 13 valid items were declared reliable with a Cronbach alpha value of 0.951. Validity tests show that there are 16 valid items for entrepreneurial motivation variable, and reliability tests show that 16 valid items were declared reliable with a Cronbach alpha value of 0.962. Respondent profile. In the study, the frequency of male respondent is 13 people with a percentage of 19%, and the frequency of female respondent is 127 people with a percentage of 51%. In this study, the frequency of respondent from 2018 class is 53 people with a percentage of 34%. The frequency of respondent from 2019 class is 46 people with a percentage of 29%, and the frequency of respondent from 2020 class is 68 people with a percentage of 37%. Descriptive data analysis. This is the result of data description and the table of frequency distribution for interest in entrepreneurship variable. This is the histogram and the average calculate indicator score of interest in entrepreneurship variable. This is the result of data description and the table of frequency distribution for entrepreneurship education variable. And this is the histogram and the average calculate indicator score of entrepreneurship education variable. This is the result of data description and the table of frequency distribution for entrepreneurship motivation variable. This is the histogram and the average calculate indicator score of entrepreneurship motivation variable. Normality test. From the table beside, it is known that the significance value is 0.200 more than 0.05, means the data is normally distributed. It can be seen that the data spread around the diagonal line and follow the diagonal direction. Based on the analysis criteria for decision making in the normal probability plot test, it can be said that the research data has a normal distribution and further analysis tests can be carried out. Linearity test. X1 to Y variable. Linearity is 0.0 less than 0.05, and deviation from linearity from the table is 0.639 more than 0.05. This means that there is a linear relationship between the variable x1 and y. And the linearity text x2 to variable y, linearity in the table is 0.0 less than 0.05. Deviation from linearity is 0.429 more than 0.05. This means that there is a linear relationship between the variable x2 and y. Classic assumption test, multicollinearity test. The tolerance value of the entrepreneurship education variable and the entrepreneurial motivation variable is 0.824 more than 0.10. The variance inflation factor value of the entrepreneurship education variable and the entrepreneurial motivation variable is 1.214 less than 10 value. It can be concluded that the regression models does not have multicollinearity problems. Heteroscedasticity test. The significance value of the entrepreneurship education variable is 0.654 more than 0.05, and the significance value of the entrepreneurial motivation variable is 0.637 more than 0.05. The dot spread above and below the number 0 on the y-axis and do not form a specific pattern. It can be concluded that there is no heteroscedasticity problems. This is a multiple linear regression test and the multiple regression equation from the table. Hypothesis test, simultaneous test. It can be concluded from the table that entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation simultaneously influence in entrepreneurial interest because the calculated value is 131.873 more than F table 3.05. And this is a partial test. The conclude is there is a partial and positive effect between x1 on y, and there is a partial and positive effect between x2 on y. The next is test of the coefficient of determination. The coefficient of determination value is 0.631. This value indicates that the variable interest in entrepreneurship is 63.1% influenced by the variable of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation, while the remaining 36.9% is influenced by other factors outside of the study. The conclusion from the research is the result of testing the first hypothesis state that there is a positive and significant influence between the variable of entrepreneurship education on the variable interest in entrepreneurship. And the result of testing the second hypothesis state that there is a positive and significant influence between the variable of entrepreneurial motivation on the variable interest in entrepreneurship. And the result of testing the third hypothesis state that there is a significant influence between entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation simultaneously on the interest in entrepreneurship variable. Theoretical implication. The result of the study aims to confirm the result of previous study that have been carried out by first Putri, Sirajuddin, and Jakaria, and Sugiharto, state that there is an influence between entrepreneurship education on interest in entrepreneurship. Second is Amiruddin and Yuritanto, Philippus and Geta, and Warasmita, which states that there is an influence between entrepreneurial motivation on interest in entrepreneurship. Third is Ramadhani and Sutirman and Tarigan et al. Said that there is an influence between entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation on interest in entrepreneurship. Practical implication. In the interest in entrepreneurship variable, the highest score in item MB26 and the lowest score in item MB21. In the entrepreneurship education variable, the highest score in item PK1 and the lowest score in item PK3. In the entrepreneurial motivation variable, the highest score in item MOB5 and the lowest score in MOB8. Research limitation. There are still many other independent variables that can affect interest in entrepreneurship besides the variables of entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurial motivation, and the sample in the study is still limited. The difficulty of communicating directly with respondent regarding how to fill out the questionnaire made some of the respondent answer not in accordance with the statement intended by the researcher. And researcher cannot explain the result of research in more deep, more complex, and more optimally. The result of this study with the subject of student of the Faculty of Economics, Jakarta State University, especially the Office Administration Education Study Program, class of 2018, 2018 to 2020 cannot be fully used elsewhere. Suggestion: the next researcher can analyze the influence of other variables that can influence entrepreneurial interests. The next researcher can use other data processing application besides SPSS version 26. The next researcher can use this type of qualitative research to be different from this research. If the next researcher want to use the same variable as the study, the researcher suggests increasing the number of respondents, expanding the research location, and changing the research object according to the next research. This research was conducted in the university, so the researcher provides suggestions for the next researcher to conduct research in school, elementary, junior high, and high school or vocational level. This is all my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.